What is going on, everyone? It is me, it's your boy Reverend Raff, and I am here to give you my thoughts on Knotfest Brisbane 2024. As you can see, I did the little red beard there. My missus picked me up a nice little hat there. I got the t-shirt, all that good shit. Apologies if I'm a bit flat. I'm extremely tired, and I've only just woken up the next day, so let's see how this goes, shall we? But look, I gotta say, let's just go right from the beginning of the day. You know, we got there, the line was quite long, but once it started moving, it was moving pretty quickly, and they did have toilets out in the section where the line was. That made it a bit easier if people, you know, needed that while they were waiting. The weather obviously played a factor in the day. It was overcast and raining for most of the day, which most people didn't seem to mind. They were like, you know, look, I'm here, I'm wet, whatever. That happens at music festivals, you know. But yeah, once we got in, you know, went into the main arena, there was only the one set of stages, which was quite good. It meant no conflicts, it meant everything was kind of centralized in the one space. And yeah, look, let's get into it. I mean, first out of the gate, there was King Parrot. And look, you know, well, if you've seen King Parrot, you know what you're going to get. Like, King Parrot's always value. It's always a really intense show. Shout out to Todd and the rest of the crew there. They just do, you know, incredible work every single time they're on stage. Well deserved for being on this bigger stage here at the festivals. I'll be honest, I kind of feel like they should have been a bit later in the day, given their tenure and experience. But, you know, that's where they landed, so that's where they landed. But yeah, really good set from these guys. You know, great to see that there was a few Aussie bands on this lineup, which was quite good. Just really excited to see them, you know, Australian bands getting a bit more representation at some of these festivals. Okay, next up was Brand of Sacrifice. Now, I hadn't seen or heard Brand of Sacrifice before, so it was like a couple of songs in when I noticed that they didn't have a singer up there with them, and I was like, oh, are these guys an instrumental band? Like, what's going on? What's the dealio here? Then I looked it up online. Apparently their singer was sick, but they didn't want to pull out, so they went up there and performed basically instrumental for the set, which is, you know, like, shout out to them. Like, that's got to be tough. It's got to be a hard decision. I feel really bad for the singer, because, I mean, look, anyone who's a vocal performer or any kind of performer knows having to pull out of a show is a real pain in the ass, and it's never pleasant. It's never something that you are happy about as a performer, so I'm hoping he's feeling better soon. I know they're supposed to be playing with Lamb of God tonight, so I'm not entirely sure if that's still happening, or if he's able to get up with them tonight, or if they're just going to go instrumental again, or what they're going to do. But, you know, they are really interesting stuff there. They kind of got me, you know, interested enough to go and check them out, so I'm going to be looking up a bit more from those guys for sure. Moving on to Wind Waker. Wind Waker was highly recommended going into the show. People were like, yep, you better pay attention to these guys, and they were right. Wind Waker had put on an amazing show. They did a really good job. I couldn't fault, you know, what they were doing. I couldn't fault their music. Their performance was great. That vocalist has a hell of a range on him. Oh my god, like, you know, cleans from high and lows, and then the different screaming styles. It really good. Like, vocalist is very talented, and I cannot wait to check out more from those guys. I will say as well, it was about this point in the day that I noticed a bit of a trend developing with the sound. The sound kind of anywhere in the space was not too bad. I think they managed to do a really good job on that front. But I did notice, by the time we sort of got to the third and fourth bands especially, that it was taking a little bit for the mix to settle in. And look, that's, to be fair, you know, that's fairly standard for this type of environment where you've got people performing on one stage, setting up on the other. You really only get to do a line check on the other stage, and then over the course of the first song, sound guys dialing in the mix, which is, you know, completely understandable. I think that overall, though, the sound was quite good for most of the day. Don't worry, we'll get to that Pantera set later. So jumping back across to the other side now, we had Speed. This is a hardcore band from Sydney, and I absolutely loved them. Like, I'd heard the name, I'd seen the feature on a couple of tracks, but I hadn't actually seen any of their originals stuff. And my God, those boys really know how to bring it. They really, really do. They, it was very reminiscent of a lot of old school hardcore stuff. So that like real New York hardcore vibe from back in the day. Really love it. Really, really impressed with them. Want to reach out to them and see if they're coming on the podcast. And to think as well that that's a band that only started about 4 years ago, and they're already at this kind of level, is awesome to see. I could not be happier for them. Going back across now to Skindred. Skindred were really, really good. Skindred's always good. They always bring the energy. And this was really the first point in the day where I felt like the whole crowd was starting to get into it. Like, obviously, early bands, not everyone's going to know them. Not everyone's going to know the material. So it's understandable that, the fans of those bands are going to push to the front and really enjoy that experience. But everyone else is going to be kind of like, yeah, okay, let's check this out, whatever. And if you, by the way, there was, sorry, this is probably important to cover off. So the set, they had a bit of a divider in the pit. So you had the pit at the cross, and then in the middle between those two stages, there was this bit that kind of stuck out into the pit. And I'm guessing it was part of the crowd control measures to stop too much surging back and forth. Look, I think it was a really great measure. It seemed to keep a lid on the more extreme stuff that might have happened in the crowd. But again, during the first few bands, the people that were really engaging with what was going on were kind of in front of that stage because they had the two-stage setup. But Skindred, like I said, was the first time where the people on the other side, in front of the other stage, really were getting into what Skindred was doing, which is not surprising. I mean, Skindred is the kind of band that even if you know nothing about them, if you've never seen them before, by the time you get later into the set, you're going to be into it, you're going to like it, you're going to be grooving and vibing on what they're bringing, because really there's a very broad appeal there, and I don't think there's anything to not like about Skindred and the show that they bring. Everyone got in on the Newport helicopter, which was great to see, all those t-shirts flinging around, and yeah, I mean, I can't wait. Skindred, please come back sooner. Please come back sooner. It was 10 years since I saw you guys last time. I don't want it to be another 10 years before I get to see you all again. Going back to the other side now, we had Escape the Fate. Now this is probably out of, again, I'd heard the name, I hadn't heard too much of the material. In terms of the set, like, for me, it was okay. The performance was good, the sound was really good. Just musically, not as much my vibe as a lot of the other stuff on the show. But, it was really, really impressive overall. And like I said, the bands that are on this lineup are on the lineup for a reason. Look, when it was announced, and even today, in the wake of it, I've seen lots of people saying, "Oh, the lineup's weak, as stupid as fucking." I'm like, look, man, if you think that lineup's weak, I don't know what to tell you. Like, the bands that were on there are all very hardworking bands. They've deserved it. They've earned their shot, and they're out there doing really good stuff. Even if it's not personally for you, I don't think this lineup can be considered weak by any means. Moving along then to Thy Art Is Murder. Now, there was a lot of interest from people to see how the new vocalist went. To my understanding, he's not been doing stuff with the band particularly long. Again, Thy Art Is Murder is a band that I know a couple of songs, I know the name, and the general vibe. And look, I'll tell you what, I think this new fella, I apologise, I didn't look up the name ahead of time. He's doing a great job. Really, really good job. Vocally, he was very versatile. He was doing some very, very extreme stuff that not a lot of metal vocalists are able to do. He was really getting hype from the crowd. He was jumping around the stage like this. It just felt like he's always been there. Felt like a guy who just belongs with the band. So if you haven't seen him yet, or if you're interested to see it, that's my recommendation. Definitely check it out. Then we get across to Wage War. Again, this is another band that came very highly recommended. I had some people that had been to Melbourne and Sydney iterations of the Knotfest this year, and they were saying that Wage War is one of the bands that put on they really did a stellar job, and I have to agree. Wage War was absolutely blew me out of the water. Really great band. And I'll be honest with you, my old ass, by about this stage in the day, I check my watch and I'm like, how the fuck is it only 3 o'clock? I will say, having the first band go on at 11:20 was, I understand the location, Brisbane Showgrounds. There's a lot of houses surrounding there, so they can't necessarily go too late. Fair enough. Meant a bit of an earlier start. It was, it is what it is. It was a long ass fucking day, but but like I said, Wage War, really good show. I know I seem kind of flat about all this stuff, but I'm just still fucking tired as fuck because I'm an old motherfucker. Going back to then Asking Alexandria. Now, here's the fucking thing about Asking Alexandria. I've seen them live on festivals a couple of times just because they were there and there wasn't anyone else I wanted to watch, or it was this kind of environment where everything was in the one space, so I didn't have to go anywhere else. They're a band that I never listen to outside the festival scene. Never listen to them if I'm not watching them live. Yet every time I see them live, I think to myself, why the fuck do I not listen to these guys? Just absolutely amazing show. Great job. Even if you didn't know too much of the material, which, people might sit there and say, how do you not know it? How do you not listen to Asking Alexandria? How do you not know any of their material? I just don't. They're just a band that they came around kind of after a lot of my tastes had settled, and it was during a period where I was very exclusionist in a lot of what I was listening to. So that's on me, but I definitely need to make an effort to check out more of their stuff because they put on a very tight show, really incredible. It really felt this was the point in the show, in the day, when if I'm looking at this lineup here, I'm seeing Skindred, Diodes, Murder, Asking Alexandria. These were all bands that really tightened up the ship, really had everything dialed in perfectly, no issues whatsoever, and they just went out there and did their thing, and it was incredible to watch. It really is it's almost watching the show and the performance, even when I didn't know too much of the material, is almost like an art in and of itself, which is really entertaining to watch. So at this point, David from Disturbed came out to watch some of the bands. I'm sure he was real impressed with everyone taking photos. Going to the other stage now, we had The Who, as in the HU, the Mongolian folk metal band that has taken the world by absolute storm over the last few years. A surprising number of people that I spoke to seemed to not have any knowledge of they hadn't listened to them before, they didn't know what to expect. And I gotta say, when you've got, this was almost like a break, I think, for a lot of people, because all the bands up until this point have been trying to hype the crowd, get the crowd going, open up this pit, give me a wall of death, etc., which is great. I love that, but obviously not every band can get a lot of that. And The Who, given that it's not in English and the songs have a lot of the folk, Mongolian folk music tied into it, it was a lot more of it was just about the vibes and the enjoyment of sharing the culture and respecting the culture. The exchange with that one, they seem to be loving the fact that they get to share their culture mixed with their passion in metal music with the rest of the world, and that the world is embracing it so much. And as an audience member, it's wonderful to see them getting to enjoy that, and it was just good vibes all around. Everyone just had a great time with this one, even if the energy was a bit more chill. There wasn't as much hardcore moshing or whatever going on. That brings us to Hailstorm. Now, Hailstorm is a band, obviously, I've heard some of their songs. I've listened to the main, a few of the main ones, but I've never seen them live before. And it's cool. I like the stuff. Not particularly forward in what I'm listening to. I did, you know, when I saw the lineup was announced, I'm like, oh, okay, so that's the only band with any female members on the lineup, which was a little disappointing. I would have liked a little more representation on that front. That said, heavy metal is a genre that is primarily filled with bands that are cis white men. So that's kind of what it is. But Hailstorm, you know, pulled no punches. They got up there. They did an amazing job. I will say, I felt like Lizzie Hale was struggling vocally a little bit at points. I don't know if she's been a little unwell. I know that obviously it's a very heavy touring schedule. This was, you know, because they've been doing those shows, I think some side shows with Disturbed. They've been doing some side shows with Skindred, I think is what's happened there. So she's, I think, probably done like 5 or 6 shows in a week, the space of a week, which is going to, you know, like, plus the air travel and the climate difference from adjusting to that in the jet lag and everything. So I'm not surprised that it sounded like she was struggling a little bit. There was a few points where on the bigger notes she seemed to lose her voice a bit, or it kind of like her voice broke. You know, not a criticism of her, just pointing out an observation. The show was really, really full on. They did a really great job, very entertaining, very energetic. And this was the point in the day where it kind of got dark. So throughout Hailstorm's set was basically when the sun went down, even though it was overcast and raining all day. So the lights kind of had a bit of that vibe about them. This was really when the light show started to come into full effect because it got dark. Kicking across to Lamb of God, excuse me a moment. I'm just going to have a little sip on my tea. Oh, that's good. So going across to Lamb of God, I mean, what can I say about Lamb of God that hasn't already been said? These guys are fucking titans at this point. They are absolutely untouchable. I haven't been as into some of their more recent albums. I think after Sturm und Drang, I that was about where I kind of, their first album that came out after the prison stuff, that's kind of the last album I really actively listened to a lot. I just felt like their newer stuff was getting a bit formulaic. They weren't really evolving it the same way they had been. But the latest album, you know, I found myself getting into a bit more. But man, when it comes to Lamb of God's live show, it's unreal. Like they just, the chokehold that they have on the audience, you know, how the fuck Randy Blythe has put himself through what he's put himself through and is still performing like that on stage, I have no clue. This was really like, alright, now it's like I said, when we shifted into some of these bands like Skindred, Thyaters Murder, Arsing Alexandria, it was like, alright, taking it up a notch. By the time we got to Hailstorm and Lamb of God, it was really like, alright, yep, these are your top tier people. And I mean, yeah, like obviously, as I said, now by that stage it had gotten dark, so the light show was really able to come into effect. And Lamb of God has always done a really, really great job with their light shows. Like whoever coordinated their light show for Lamb of God, I absolutely commend you on that job. Incredible. It really, really helped the vibes. A couple of songs that I was a little surprised they didn't play, but when you're a bit more time limited in this kind of environment, and Lamb, you know, I can understand it, and you know, Lamb of God's back catalogue is very, very deep at this point. So you know, I understand that, but at the same time, I'm a little surprised we didn't get songs like Ghost Walking or Black Label. Like they closed off with Redneck, which got a really big circle pit, which is awesome. Like that song is a perfect circle pit song. But you know, a couple of other songs I would have liked to see. Maybe if they were the headline, it would have they would have been in there. But you know, Lamb of God never disappoints. They're always a good show. Then we got over to Disturbed. Disturbed actually had a full video screen at the back of their stage, which I was curious to see how they were going to utilize that. Most of the time it was just kind of running a loop with the song title and the band name on it in various styles. On occasion, though, it had something a bit more special, like when they played Land of Confusion, when they played Prayer, a bit more. And I gotta say, like, hearing Prayer live again after so long, like, I kind of, again, similar to Lamb of God, like, I fell off Disturbed for a while there, didn't listen to too much of their newer material, but that said, there was only a couple of songs they played that I didn't recognise. And they played a lot of old school ones, which is great. I'm not gonna lie, I got a little bit emotional during their set because there was a lot of nostalgia there for me. A lot of songs I hadn't heard in so long, just because they kind of have fallen out of rotation on my playlists. But it was really that when they played Sound of Silence, I was like, oh, okay, cool, they're playing Sound of Silence. Like, they'll have a backing track with the strings or something there. But no, they had. They played a little piano bit while they were doing this setup, but they rolled out like an actual piano. They rolled out a piano on stage. I don't know if it was electric or whatever. It looked like a mini grand piano. But they had brought out that for Dan to play. They had, the timpani drums. They had like a actual string section come out on stage with them and play it, which was really, really special. And, the crowd really felt that moment when they were playing that one, which was, really impressive. Like, I've not heard that one live in person before, so it was quite moving. And, the rest of the set was like, it's Disturbed again. If you've seen Disturbed before, you kind of know what you're getting. They're just very tight performance. They really, really dialed it in. They're very polished performance, almost to the point of feeling a little over-choreographed and overproduced. That's just my take on it. But, they're going to do their thing. They obviously did that new song that they've released. They had Lizzie Hale come out and sing that one with them, which was really nice. I think they might have had a couple of the other guys from Hailstorm. I don't know. They had extra people on stage playing extra guitars and shit during that one as well. So, I don't know. But it was good. It was really, really good to see Disturbed again. And now let's talk about Pantera. I am probably going to catch some flack for this one. It was disappointing. There's no other way for me to put it. As someone who's been a fan of Pantera for like 20 plus years now, and like I never got the chance to see them back in the day, unfortunately. This was, I don't really know how else to say it, this was a letdown. It really was. Some of it was not their fault. I will say that some of it was not their fault. So they had the intro track kind of played with a video package and everything, and I'm like, oh, this is great. Yep, everyone's getting excited. Blah blah blah. They had the curtain up and everything. Count in, curtain drops. They start playing the first song. Front of house sound goes. And it was just front of house because the band kept playing like they could still hear shit. And I could faintly hear the stage monitors were still going. And the lights were still going. But there was just no sound for front of house. So they finished up their first song. Someone had obviously got the word to them that there was an issue. So it feels like, can you guys hear us? And everyone went, no! A really big thing. So he went, alright, really sorry about that. Give us a few minutes, we'll fix it. So, sure enough, they fixed it. They got stuff working again. They came back out. And look, this shit happens, right? It had been raining all day. Rain and electricity do not mix. Outdoor festival. I don't know what the problem was. I don't know what the issue was. I have to assume it was power related somewhere. But whatever it was, they got it sorted and they were able to continue. Unfortunately, even once they continued, the mix was not very good. Again, not Pantera's fault, but as anyone who's listened to Pantera knows, it's very guitar forward, and pretty much for the rest of the set, the guitar was buried in the mix. I don't know if this was tied to the power problem they had, if the power problem was something happened with the amps and they couldn't run as many amps as they wanted to, so they weren't getting as much guitar signal to send to front of house. Like, I have no clue as to specifically what the issue was. All I know is that wherever I was in the arena, because I moved to a couple different places, the drums were quite loud and the vocals were quite loud compared to everything else, which maybe wouldn't have seemed so imbalanced if the guitar that was needed to be in there was in there. But so there was already working against them, right? But if we want to get to the actual performance itself, unfortunately, I still have some critiques. It really felt like everything was being played at like 80% speed. Like, I don't know if that was, like, if that's a specific thing, like they have to play the stuff slower for one reason or another. I mean, I don't think it would have been because of, you know, like, because of Zakk Wylde on guitar, for example, like, because we all know Zakk Wylde can play like a motherfucker, but it just really felt that everything was played a bit slow, which is just wild, because normally stuff gets played faster, right? Like I don't know if they were running a click track or what. They were definitely running in-ears, but it just everything just felt like sort of it was played at maybe 80 to 90% of the speed it should have been. Phil really seemed to get quite gassed by the end of the set. And look, here's the thing, right? Like, we always say on here, you know, like, these bands are the ones out there doing it. You know, like, this is Pantera. They've been out there. Like, Phil's been out there as a performing musician for goddamn or near, like, well, I must say for 30 years now, right? So he's been out there doing this shit for a long time. He's been through a lot. I can understand that he maybe isn't the performer that he once was. No issues there whatsoever. Where I have a little bit of an issue myself is if you can't perform it to the standard that the fans deserve, I don't think you should be out there performing it. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad I got to see Pantera. Wouldn't go and see him again after that. Honestly, it was disappointing. But, you know, this is just my thoughts. You can tell me to shut the fuck up if you want. You can tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. That's perfectly fine. This is just my thoughts on it, you know. If you felt different, please feel free to let me know. If you were somewhere in the arena that had better sound, like, let me know where you were. Because I was nowhere that I was in the arena had good sound for Pantera. And last thing I want to say about Pantera is they finished up early. Like, they were supposed to go for an hour and 20 minutes. Obviously, they had some tech issues that shaved a little bit off the start of the set. But then, like, they started like 8:30. They played Cowboys from Hell and wrapped that up at about 9:32, 9:33. They were supposed to play until 9:50, so they kind of came down there like, oh, should we play one more song? Alright, cool. And they played fucking Hostile, and then it was still like only about 9:45, if that. It was barely scraping 9:45 at that point. So I don't know if the technical issues meant they had to cut some songs. or what exactly happened, but their set was shorter than it was supposed to be. And just overall, between the performance issues and the sound issues, it just left a really bad taste in my mouth, unfortunately. So, you know, after the highlights of Hailstorm, Lamb of God, and Disturbed, especially, that set just felt like a bit of a nosedive in quality, to be honest with you guys. But look, there you go. That's my thoughts on it. I hate to end it on a downer like that. If you were at one of the other Knotfests, like, let me know. Was Pantera's set better there, or did you find the same performance issues? If you've seen them on any of their other shows, definitely please comment. Let me know what you guys thought about that. If they had any similar issues there. But yeah, that's my wrap up of Knotfest 2024. I am going to probably go back to bed, I think, because I am tired as fuck. I don't know if y'all can see the bags under my eyes there. Righty up. Anyway, that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch y'all next time. See ya.